Warning, I want to keep this intro very quickly, so here we go. This might be more than 2 parts, it might be 3 or 4, who knows, just depending on how long this is. But here's your final awaited part 3 of Oni Yandere Overhaul X listener. Here we go. Let's go. You were tired, both physically and mentally, as you listened to yet another clan leader speak. His forked tongue lisped his words like a chemically written snake speech in B-grade anime, though the rest of his body remained more of a jackal, with smoky fur covering his head to toe and ears on constant swivels. Meeting like this were the band of your existence, but ever since he had attached that blasted collar, you had been stuck to his side at all hours of the day, unable to make any more than just a few steps without him allowing it. Most of the time, it was easy to pretend like it was before, cleaning his room and sheets to the nines, fetching him new ink supplies and paper when he needed them. The further you gotten lately was the kitchens to receive his food, all the things you were used to doing. What took it a step further remained you, of your now closer place to him, was the things he had been slowly begin tracking on. He insisted that you fed him his lunch, too busy with work or too tired from the day to do so. An award experience for sure, but nothing compared to his insolence that you, instance that you helped clothe him. Each morning and night you would help him from his robes, face red as you averted your eyes the best you could until he was clothed to decency. It was a miracle he hadn't begun instantly on that you accompanied him to bathe, though it wouldn't stretch of the image to think of him doing so soon. It remained you of the topic relationship your friends had dumped in the second year of high school, clinging to in the worst ways. This even extended to your sleep. Some nights forced to sleep on the cold wooden floor like a dog, not even a blanket or pillow to sleep with. It was far more preference to the nights he did force you to sleep with him. The blankets of his futons were heavenly, soft and thick enough to keep the contents chill of the realm away, but with his own heated embrace, it was nearly suffocating. His arms were like vines, nails digging into your skin until you bled. And the while his face is buried into your neck, sharp fangs, way too close for anyone to feel comfortable. It was the closelessness that terrified you so much. How many times before you had seen high-ranking Onis and servants alike erased from existence, nothing left other than a cloud of smoke, for interrupting on his invasive bubble, not even brushing him, unlike the way he constantly had you in his lap or even within reach. Oftentimes, in such a posture, you had catched him stubbornly scenting your skin, the smallest path of his wrist running over your neck and hands, in which he forced you to use a plethora of products in order to wash away your mortal stench. How you craved to be like the others, whom he admittedly avoided any cost with, lest he break out in a rash in the smallest touch. One those days you would have to spend hours scrubbing his skin, scrubbing fluorescent water until your fingers ache with his skin, and his skin was flush. In all this time, by his side, you had many Oni, more than you were comfortable with, and each more terrifying than the last. Yet none ever came close to Zaki. His aura preceded him, getting the nerve on edge before he even saw you, and you assumed that it was due to the same deadly haze that no one had ever said a thing about your presence in the meeting, dutifully making notes the way he had taught you, a painful process as he took glee in punishing you with lashes of his brush against each time your work was anything less than perfect. Occasionally, you would pour him some tea, grabbing fresh water whenever it became cold or empty. Though trips to the kitchen even became more and more rare as you spent all your time in his presence, tending to whatever he needed and dutiful taking notes. At a chime rings through the air, signifying the end of the meeting, and much too soon for your liking. As much as you hated being around all the others, being alone with Chizaki was worse. Regardless, he followed wordlessly as he raised, passing the others who have all bowed their heads in respect. His long strides were hard to keep up with, and you struggled to do so while balancing your writing utensils. Yet fear of being dragged by that stupid invisible collar and spilling said items, which would lead to another punishment, motivated you to keep going. It was already late by the time you had returned, the gray sky turning a deep shade of purple as shadows of the night beast rose through the air. Like clockwork, you helped him undress, setting up his desk as he washed his skin and applied a number of balms and creams. Meanwhile, you pulled out a koto from the elegant light wood case. In the span of a few weeks, you had learned to play a frillia of instruments. While you would be doing no concert for the masses, it was enough to keep Chizaki satisfied as he worked, occasionally demanding a certain song, or to have you run and do one task or another. If you were being honest, it was a relief when you got to play Catholic in a way, as it reminded you of your time back home and the occasional classes your mother had made you take. When he's finally done with his work, allows you to stop. You're far past the time your fingers have gone numb and wrists ache. Gesturing for you to join him, you make your way to the elevated platform that holds his futon. He must be in a good mood tonight. You moose as he rubs your wrists in a way one way might view as a kind of lovingly evening, yet the firm cold grip of his hands as long black nails occasionally scrape your skin, sending shivers down your spine. Not it a bit harder to relax. I have a meeting with the toll route tomorrow. The trip will take a few days. If everything goes well and they decide to drop their urgency for the sake of reason, you nod, already planning on what to pack. It wouldn't be the first time you traveled with him, though you were never gone for more than a night or two. Chisaki was not someone who enjoyed being away from his lavishes of home. Would you like me to pack our ladder robes? It's been getting warmer as of late. You spoke more to yourself than him, while staring at the futon covers, tracing the patterns of swirls and clouds with your eyes, as you tried to distance yourself as much as possible from the present time. His hands let go of yours, the relief momentarily as he grasps your face, forcing you to look at him in the eyes as he speaks, eyes burning with an intensity that always keeps you pinned. Where I go, no mortal can follow. The darkness would invade and drive you insane if the shadows that reside there didn't rip you apart first. Despite the thinly veiled threat, a surge of excitement coursed through your body as you realized what this means. He was leaving you behind. You would finally be free from him, if only for a few days, trying to depend your emotions. You masked any hint of excitement, though it seemed he sees right through your act as he grins tighten, or as his grip tightens, almost painful, as he brings your face closer. You will behave well, yes. I have trained you very well after all, and both know what will happen if you try anything. Nodding, you don't miss his gaze, fingers down to your neck briefly, where scars burn in memory. A few days after it intently been placed, the collar had disappeared during a dip in the bath. It was one of the few times Shizaki left you in peace, preferring his own private baths that housed much more pure spirit water. Your own had a delightful vision used by lower house members, but at the time you had thought it enough to have washed away whatever curse had been placed upon you, and didn't miss a moment and took the chance to run. After getting to the gates, you thought freedom was within reach, only to wake up bleeding and with a punching headache, the air of disappointment shrouding Chizaki, who stood above your collapsed body. Swelling thickly at the memory, you nodded with a mumbled meek, "Yes, sir. Good." His arms moved to your shoulders, pushing you down before wrapping an arm around your neck, almost a chokehold. As he inhales deeply within you, cursed yourself for your choice in shampoo from that morning. Pushing your feelings aside, you instead focus on the hope tomorrow would bring, rather than the trickle of wandering hands that trace patterns on your skin as you fell asleep. The next day, there was a new pep in your step as you prepared for Chizaki's leaving, careful not to crease a single article of clothing as you packed them, tucking them in neatly with his scrolls and brushes on the travel cart. Another company you, bowing low at the presses leaving, many calling for their safety journey, while you pray that they fall victim to the monsters that walk the borderlands. Chizaki's eyes never leave you, staring up to the moment the large oak gates of the entrance close, once again cutting you off from the outside world. Despite that, you have never felt more light in all the time you had been here, and it only increased the further away he went. As others start falling back to the shrine, you followed, wondering what you would do with the time he was away. So much of your time was spent looking after Chizaki. To not have him was a free up your entire day. However, you weren't left to wonder for long, as Chizako, Chizako, the head of the servants' quarters. I think it's supposed to be Chrono, because if you remember, last Chrono was the head. Stopping in the hall. You'll be returning to your normal duties for now. Just because the master is away doesn't mean you can play. Nodding, you make your way through the maze of halls to the servants' quarters, your feet picking up pace with every step until you were about running, craving the familiarity of the place that you had been your home and heaven in your first week here. Stepping through some hold, you can see the others just been rousing, getting ready for the long day of back-breaking work. The mood is calm, sledging as they dress and fold beddings. The mood is broken as your name is called, and, like a siren song, draws the attention of everyone in the proximity. There's a beat of silence before chaos as we're swarmed by the others, questions flying from every direction as they inspected you from head to toe. How the hell are you still alive? What does he have you doing? We never see you in the main halls anymore. Did he let you go from his service? And on the questions went, each looking in the satisfaction they curiously of their languorous young master, and in sudden interest in his new in this new mortal pet. It was overwhelming, but you wouldn't trade it for anything. To be honest, it was nice to know that they hadn't been worried about your sudden that they had been worried about your sudden disappearance. And you missed the intern's natural of the other servants. It made you feel less alone, and you tried to answer their questions as best as you could, though there were still many things you didn't understand yourself as to why Chisaki had focused his obsession on you. All right, back off. Give the girl some room to breathe. Her voice cut through the crowd like a knife, soon followed by its owner, as the others parted to let her through. Yona stood tall, just as imposing as you remembered, if not a bit more worn-looking than you remember, though with the small luxuries that came along that working under Chisaki, it was difficult to remember being ran rugged as you once had with moral labor. Now your life was a mental game, a soji between you and your tolerance, considering trying to stay 3 steps ahead. You hadn't been expecting much from the stoic woman who was stern on best of days, but the slap she delivered to the upside of your head was a surprise. It left you really more shocked than hurt. It wasn't the first time she had done such. The action, one of her favorites in the early days of training, right along shin kicks that would leave you cringing every time you stepped the rest of the day. What surprised you even more was when she wrapped her arms around you, bringing you into a tight hug that hurt more than the hit, as her arms conceded like panthons. You could have sworn you heard a few ribs cracking. You've really gotten yourself into quite the mess of this time, haven't you, kid? She spoke into your hair, forehead resting against the crowns of your own as you wavered touches your words. I don't know what you did to get his attention, but whatever it is, it was pretty stupid. Tell me about it. You laughed, your own arms embracing her just as tightly, craving the touch of someone who cared for you, someone besides that demon that kept you under lock and key. I missed you, Yona. Her breaths catch, barely inaudible over the sound of the others millilently about the room, chased away by Yona, but still curious. A light laugh leaves her lips, humorous as she pulls away, holding you an arm's length as she rubs her palms aggressively against her eyes. Don't get sentimental on me now. I still haven't forgiven you for leaving me with all this work while you go entertaining the young master. Word is he feeds you his table scraps, and he'll damn it if get to enjoy fancy meals while we eat bitter sludge. Sorry for all the messing up there. Trust me, I'd rather eat bugs the rest of my life than spend 1 second around that man. Yona's eyes harden at your words, the lower set closing completely, while the upper 2 turn into little more than crescent moons that glowed a burning red. Forget about him. You're stuck with me now, and there's no way I'm letting you kick your feet up while I do the work. True to her word, Yona puts you right to work, washing laundry and running mats out to air dry. By noon, your hands are full of silvers from scrubbing the floors, nails chipped from their soaked in scrubbing water and used to scrub the dirty out in every crevice. By lunch, you had more bandages than fingers covered your hands. Yona cracking jokes about your crushy lifestyle ruining you the entire time she helped you wrap them. Her jokes, along with the others, only got worse when you were served lunch, gagging at the first bit of purple sludge before choking down the rest. The only time she leaves your side is when you leave after lunch to clean Chizaki's room. Just because he was gone didn't mean you could skip on its daily cleaning, and even he did have a creepy fondness towards you. Coming home to a dusty room was a one way to ensure his wrath. So you did your best, cleaning the room as quickly as possible to standards that would hardly pass his inspection. More to consider with getting back to the others. Besides, you would have to do the same tomorrow, and however long he was gone for, you could take the lashing in returns for the taste of freedom with Yona and the others any day of the week. That night you didn't complain about the scratchy blankets or the stale air of the room. The taste of dinner still lingered like a nightmare, and tinted the air off the breath of the others. Yet, this was the happiest you had ever been since Kai had whisked you away, chaining you to him and cutting off any communications with anyone other than him and a few selected house members. The moon, or whatever vision of it exists in this realm, shines through the paper of the sliding doors, bringing the late fall chill with a cold light and protruding you all to sleep in what was little more than a glossable heap. An arm was flung around your back, elbows dug into your side, while Yona herself had her feet pressed against your back, cold toes seeking warmth beneath your skin, then in the fabric of your nightclothes. It's to the snores of the others that fell asleep, unbreathed by nightmares of blackbirds and creeping shadows that chased you through the oblivious for the first time in weeks. It was the best sleep you had gotten in all your time of being here, and when Yona woke you up in the morning, you were tempted to ignore her and try going back to sleep. "Come on, I have a surprise for you," she whispered. As if it were a big secret, you only huffed, turning back over and pulling the blanket further around your shivering form. If you thought you could get away with it, you would have stolen the blankets from Chisaki's room. He had a nose like a bloodhound, however, and if he detected any of the other scent on it, not even his affinity for you would be enough to save you. "Fine," she sighed, turning you over her toe in your swamped position. "I guess you don't want to come with me outside the shrine, beyond the walls." She turns, footsteps fading at the words, focused in your sleep-muddled mind, but when they do, your own feet chasing after the woman. "What do you mean?" She shrugs, casually slipping onto her work clothes and rolling up her blanket, moving to her shelf. Shelf. She grabs a cloak from the community closet, tossing one your way as well. A few of the higher-ups need some things from the market, and they don't want to wait until the next deliveries arrive. As a senior worker, they asked me to fetch them. Senior worker. Okay. And they let you take me. It was hard to believe, with how tight of a leash Shizaki kept you on, literally and metaphorically. It was hard to imagine him agreeing to such a thing without losing his temper, nor any of those that knew him agreeing. He had made it clearer more than once that you were his property. And while no one was allowed to touch you, they were also well aware that you weren't to just not be allowed to run. Yona simply shrugged, fastening a bag across her shoulders as you stumbled into your own clothes, hopping down the hall while tugging her shoes on. It was still the early hours of the morning, and the house was quiet. Only a few of the more nocturnal yokai walking around as they prepared to head to bed. "I didn't ask, they just said to choose someone, so I did." She pauses by the kitchen, reaching in to grab a few rolls that sat on the end of the counter and guarded as the cook was occupied at the fire. Sorry, I'm moving that so I can. Grumbling over his pot as he added a number of ingredients you couldn't even begin to name. Stop. No. God. Next stop was the room of the Shiro and the old yokai who took care of the money. You had seen him in a number of meetings, recognizing the antlers that sprouted out from his head, decorated with a number of gems and chains that jiggled every time he moved. If he recognized you, he didn't say anything about it, handing a pouch over to Yona without a word, shooing her away. Snotty old man, she scoffs when you were down the hall, out of earshot. Opening the pouch, she ruffled through its contents, the sounds of coins clittering together letting you know just how much there was. He better hope none of the prices have increased since the last time, or else we're screwed. I guess that means we're not getting lunch while we're out, you joked, elbowing her, which she laughs. Why do you think I snaggled these? She gestures to her bag, which holds the bread she had stolen earlier. No way am I going hungry because the old geezer here are too cheap to buy a girl taking the time out of her day to do them a favor, a nice lunch. Exiting the main doors, the chill of the morning instantly attacks your senses, instantly freezing your lungs and locking the muscles of your back. For being creatures of cruel intents and actions, the ground were kept in surprisingly precise conditions. Despite winter ending not that long ago, flowers were already planted and lined in the walls of the shrine, ranging in colors from purple to white, all organized in neat rows along the pond to the east. From Chizaki's room, all you could ever see was the dark forest towards the west, and it was easy to forget the parts of this place that weren't awful. Coming closer to the gate, you could see the guards standing to either side, to large red men that looked like they could have been bodyguards in their own world, if not for the second set of arms protruding from their sides, clenching weapons in each hand. A knot of anxiety started to build in your stomach as you approached, praying they wouldn't recognize you. Yona simply wrapped her arm around your shoulder, ushering you to forward and keep your head bent as her steps quickened. Maybe if you were quick enough, they would simply overlook you. They did every other servant. Hey, you there. The sound of metal changing protruded you to look up, seeing their blades crossed and blocking your path to the outside world. What do you think you doin'? The eyes of the ink started staring down, fixing you a place as you swallowed thickly. This one's not allowed off property. The young lord would be displeased if he were to find out we let them without his permission. You were already fooled, tossed in the towel when there was, but Yona had other plans. Are you serious? Do you think I would do something against the young lord's wishes? I don't have a death wish, and besides, she gestures to your meek form, which only continued to curl in itself. You think she would be able to escape me? She's immortal, for crying out loud. I'm not dumb enough to let his pet get away. The man looked like he wanted to speak, but Yona continued on, scolding them both. Just let us through, unless you want to be one to explain why he didn't have enough supplies for his ink and paper. Yes, and he wanted me to grab some new incense to burn when he returns home. You spoke up, trying your best to sound desperate and convincing. He grows very cross when he doesn't have it, and traveling always leaves him in a foul mood. In fact, the last time we returned, I think a few of the guards lost their heads when they took too long opening the gates. Now they looked uneased, sending each other looks over your head. You tried to be patient, swaying from foot to foot, with a taste of freedom so close. It was hard to keep from simply running for it. Fine, he finally says, stepping aside to let you both through. But if anything happens, we're not taking the fall from the young master. It will be on your head, not ours. Yona grabbed your arm, quickly pulling you through before they could change their minds. Understood. Once outside the gate, she pulled a roll-up fabric from her bag, unreeling a rather revealed that it was a cloak much like the one she wore. Like many, it was a muted tone of the house colors, the symbol embroidered in small patch on the front, intended to keep away from anyone who would cause trouble. Even though you hadn't been out before, you knew from stories. Sorry, I lost my place for a second. You knew stories that it was well respected, much of it due to the current master's confirmations and influences over the yokai as a whole. But the rumor of Tazaki's power and ruthlessness had only cemented their positions as those not to trifle with. This would keep the others from smelling you. The object here is to keep you a low profile today. Come on, nudging her. You couldn't help but smile. When have I ever caused a ruckus or drawn attention to myself? Yona only rolled her eyes, pulling you along further towards the bustling market below. Sorry everyone, but that will be the end of part 1 of, I'm going to change it to episodes, but episode 3 of the Yandere Oni overhaul. If you want to find part 2, it will be up on my YouTube channel. Alright, bye!